Hi, this is Jessica Robertson, and you're listening to From Nothing to Profit.
Welcome to From Nothing to Profit, a photographer's podcast with Matt and Kaya, where each week they talk to photographers about what is working in their business now so you can swipe those ideas and grow your business faster.
Hey, everybody. So Matt here, and I'm recording another podcast from Sync without Kaya. Maybe next year we can all convince Kaya to come back here. She comes every year, but didn't come this year. And so go ahead and just send her an email and let her know she has to come next year. Anyways, my guest today is Jessica. So I don't know much about you because we don't run in the same. I know we don't run in the same circles.
We should.
We should.
Yes,
we will from now.
Yes, absolutely.
But I just saw Jessica speak at Sync, and I was blown away by what you guys are doing. So I don't want to steal your flame because you already did your speech, and so you can just tell everybody those slides again if you want. But
Go through the whole thing, no problem. I got this.
Yeah, I can do it from start to beginning.
Sure.
So tell us real quick about your studio, what you guys are doing, and all that stuff.
Sure. So our studio is in Ashland, Virginia, just outside of Richmond. We photograph about 200 seniors a year, in addition to some families and babies and some corporate work that we do. I started out of my home originally, or I started on location really, and then to my home. And then we opened our retail space in 2005. Our first studio was about 1,500 square feet, and we moved across the street because it's the street that you want to be on in our small town. And now we have a 3,000 square foot studio, and that's been since 2011. I have a fabulous team that works with me. I'm very fortunate to have Karen and Robin support me and help me so that I'm able to really do the thing that I love, which is photography.
Yeah, and they're here this week at Sync with you as well. And they're really awesome people.
Yes.
So you are, let me just tell you, you are lucky.
Oh, I'm so fortunate.
Yeah.
I'm so incredibly
So we should just have this whole podcast and just talk about them is what we should really do.
Really,
Yeah.
I know. I mean, it's not really me. Let's be honest. I
yeah.
just do what I'm told. I say that all the time in the studio. They'll go, so, continue to talk about this. I'm like, I don't really know. Ask Karen and Robin. I just do what I'm told to do.
Right. And then sometimes that's way better. That's awesome.
It is, absolutely.
So what's one thing that people would know about you, as just like looking at your website and stuff like that? Like what, is there anything, what's the dirt?
I tell everybody everything about me. No. Well, I think one that I started as a teacher. And so I think that makes me come from a different place. So I had taught high school seniors, and I really connect with that age. I don't know if that's where I kind of stopped my mental state or something, but I do. I love working with that age bracket. And I think that my history and my life previous to being a full-time photographer, that really does help and makes me understand the people that I'm working with a little bit better. Yeah.
And so I was hoping you were going to bring that up because I used to be a teacher as well.
That's awesome.
I taught statistics at the high school level for 5 years.
Those are your heaven points.
Yeah.
Seriously, come on into heaven. You were a high school teacher.
Yeah.
Great.
So, and you taught photography and biology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's awesome. When do you remember what years you taught?
What years? 2000 to 2005.
Okay. So I taught 2008 to 12 or something like that. That's probably wrong too. Right. But it's so interesting because I've been removed from the classroom for so little. I'm starting to actually lose touch with our current seniors. Enough has changed since I left.
Yeah, right.
When I first left the classroom, Allison was running the business the whole time I was teaching, but when I first left the classroom, I just felt like I had it dialed. Like I knew exactly how to talk to them and where they were and all that stuff.
What they were into, yeah.
And now I feel like I've lost it a little bit, but I mean, people are still people, so.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I completely understand that relatability. And sometimes it makes it funny, and I'll make fun of myself in that regard. I'm like, I have no idea what you just said. Who's the person that's your favorite, musician?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, can you spell that for me? I really have no idea what you're saying. Like, what genre of music are we talking about? Okay, I haven't heard of that genre either, Right. So, yeah.
Well, now some of the artists now have like symbols in their name and stuff like that. So it's like, I'm waiting for.
I really don't get that.
I'm waiting for the first rapper that's just all emojis. It's coming soon.
Hey, that's a concept. That's an idea. I think you should pitch that.
Well, I saw on the news that license plates are now in Florida now can have an emoji. And there's like six. I saw it when I was here at Sync. There's 6 emojis, like the smiley one, the heart eyes one, and you can now you can have custom license plates with an emoji at the end.
And then the cop's like, "What is that symbol? How do I put that in?" Yeah, I'm just not going to pull that person over. I don't want to do that emoji.
Right? He's like WEF heart eyes. I think it's a Cadillac.
Right.
So anyways, but yeah, so I think being a teacher also brought a lot of expertise to our business too. So do you miss teaching or not really?
Well, that's why I came back to Sync and I'm teaching. So yes.
Me too.
Yeah.
No, me too. I have to do some kind of outlet like that for sure.
And I feel so fortunate because there's been so many photographers that I am still so immensely grateful for. And it is kind of a way of giving back, but it's also, it makes me analyze what we're doing so that I can convey that message. But then it also makes me reassess, are we doing the right thing, and getting feedback from others that works for them. And so it's kind of a full circle kind of thing as well. So, and I do believe that when you teach, you are also learning.
Yes.
And just because someone's a student, that doesn't mean that they can't teach you something.
Absolutely.
And I really believe that. And sometimes that comes from your self-analysis, but sometimes it comes from the conversations you have with people. And so I love it. I do. Yeah.
And I did some teaching here at Sync this week. And like just when I was putting my presentation together, I was like, I need to dial that part in my business and stuff a little bit. Like, I'm like, I do that, but I know I could do that better.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? For sure. Okay. So let's talk about the industry real quick. So the question is, well, actually, before we go to the industry, there's a question before that. So kind of the general question of our podcast is like, what's working now? So when you think of your business, like what's working now, and what would you tell our audience?
Well, so for me, when I thought about this question, I think that we have always centered our business in storytelling and really wanting to hear that person's story so that we can visually create an image that matches. And
you didn't talk about this in your class.
I did.
And like how you need to include elements that are personal to them because that makes the portrait more important to them.
Absolutely. And I do see it as a collaborative effort. So the mom will go, oh, well, I've got an idea, but I don't want to mess this up. And I'm like, absolutely not. Please. You obviously know your child better than I do. Please tell me about her. And that is a question we have on there. If your friends were to describe you, what would they say? And that's actually really insightful.
Right.
So on our information sheet, when we have our consultation, that is something that I look at. And I think that people are drawn to images that are a true reflection of them. They want to be special. They want to look different. They don't want what everybody else has already had.
Sure.
And so if you draw out who they are, which is, I think, part of our job in understanding who they are, then you can create images that are a reflection and that are also unique and authentic and different.
And you also talked about how when they look at it in the future, they'll look back and they have different memories than it just being the senior portrait session. You know, like it has some real meaning to them.
The experience is fun.
Yeah. About a time in their life and stuff like that, which I think is really important. So,
and the parents are more connected to those images too, because they're like, I've seen my kid in that leotard on the gymnastics floor her whole entire life, and I can't believe that you know we now have these images to hold for posterity. It's really beautiful.
So tell us a little bit. You alluded this a little bit, but you kind of have a questionnaire. So how do you get this information out of them so that you can use it?
Start there, right? So when someone calls in, and typically we try and bring people to the telephone, which this current generation is not a big fan of. They'd rather text or message, but we typically have a parent call in to us and we make a connection there. We have that relationship. We tell them it's a no obligation consultation. Just come in, kind of see what we do. And we send them an information sheet that has a ton of questions. And so it is their homework. We send them videos as well so they can get excited, start thinking about what they want. And then that way they're not coming in completely blank. So when I say, tell me about your vision. What are you thinking you want to do for your senior portraits? It's not a blank face. They should have thought about it. And if it is a blank face, then it might be a longer consultation. But
your worksheet or whatever you want to call it, your intake form, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it, it's open. It has open-ended questions on it to get them thinking about it.
It does, absolutely. And it should trigger, I do want to incorporate that, or I don't want to. So if something, my kids are involved in so many different things. It's amazing how they're volunteering, involved in their schools. And so when you look at those different things they're involved in that they've listed, it can just be like, that's just something I do to be a part of my school. Or is it something that's really important to them, is a driving force in their life?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so that's perfect. So what's working now is getting that information from an including picture. And I saw from your images, I saw it sync this week. Like it makes complete sense when you say that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
You guys definitely look her up on Instagram and see her work. It's amazing.
Thank you.
So let's switch gears real quick and talk about the industry. So the question is like, what is one thing that has you fired up about in the industry? That may be a little bit over exaggeration, but when you think about the industry, where do you think it's going, or what do you think about what do you hold true to about the industry?
Well, technologically, I think we're continuing to see a lot of changes, and for me, I've always used off-camera flash. And I do think that when we think about ways to make our imagery look different from others, I think that that's a very easy way to do that. Now, the evolution of that has changed significantly here in the last few years with high-speed sync, and that for me is a game changer. Having a family wanting to be done every day, at least by 5, and not wanting to start until 8:15, that's kind of my schedule. And I only work Monday through Friday. That is huge for me so that I can shoot at a lower f-stop and then be able to crank up that shutter speed. So I think that that's a huge game changer. But I also think that we as off-camera flash shooters are kind of unique because there's so many are just natural light, but because everything now has gotten so much cheaper and easier to use, I think that if people are willing to change, it may be more difficult, honestly, to differentiate yourself if everyone understands how to use lighting. So I think that that's really important.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. So I've been thinking about this a little bit too, because I feel like there's two types of shooters, and I haven't quite identified. Maybe there's probably a million, but there's natural light shooters, and there's a lot of like one light off camera flash shooters. And I'm trying to figure out like, okay, if almost everybody is that, what is like the third group, or what is the fourth group that I can be a part of that I can push myself on? You know what I mean?
To be different, completely
because
different,
I just feel like I'm like, okay, that person, I see a group of people locally and they just carry around reflectors. And then I come here and I see everybody has like
some form of off-camera flash.
A beauty dish with like a sleeve on it. You
Right,
know?
absolutely. But even how you use that light, I think is a way to differentiate yourself. So, if you're more of a fashion kind of photographer, then you're going to put it up high and kind of shoot it down low. If you want it to be more dramatic, what you do with that light, I think, is as significant as using light, if that makes sense.
I think that's fair because you probably have more versatility and more flexibility with that light versus like a reflector or something like that. Right,
absolutely. And I like being in control, and light using an off-camera flash allows me to be in more control than if a cloud comes over and I'm using a reflector. Like, well, that doesn't work.
I know, right? Exactly. Okay, so that's really good. So let's jump into lightning around a little bit. We have plenty of time, so don't feel like we have to do these fast. We call it lightning round. Maybe I'll just change the name. After yours will be the last.
No more lightning round. Jessica, drop the mic on that. Okay.
You'll be the last lightning round ever because I don't think it fits. But so, what was holding you back from becoming a full-time photographer when you first started?
Money.
So, like, you were worried that like you wouldn't make money, or
I think there was a lot of fear as well. So I have a degree in art with a concentration in photography. So I felt very secure in my craft. I knew that I looked young, and so that was a difficult aspect from changing from I'm learning this craft, and then how do I make that an actual business that can be lucrative and that can pay my bills? And so there was fear as well that I didn't understand this whole part of my career that I had no education on. And so a lot of it was intuitive in terms of this is how I want to be treated, or this makes sense. But there's a lot of education that kind of went into that. And so I think that it was fortunate actually that I had that time to kind of figure that out.
Yeah. And you talked about during your sync, I don't want to keep referencing.
That's great.
No, but everybody should just come to sync.
Everybody should come to sync. It's amazing. It's awesome.
But you talked about how your dad helped you a little bit with the business side of it as well.
Right. And asking me those questions, like if you want to get paid, like how are you going to pay yourself and how much is this going to cost? And he talked about a business plan, which I had absolutely no idea about, And
I thought you had a really good way of saying what a business plan is too. Because I think even to me as a business person, a business plan is intimidating. But you said it's basically just like I don't remember how you described it, like a roadmap of where you're going or something like that.
It is, yeah. And I think we want to start with the end and we want to figure out those steps along the way. And, even for me, I'm setting those goals and trying to figure out even now, what else do I want to do? What else is more important to me? How do I shift my business with everything that is changing? So
it's a constant change.
Constantly evolving plan,
Especially with seniors, it feels like it's reinventing the business every year.
Always. And I think that that's such a gift, really, because if we just sit back and go, oh, well, everybody loves me, of course they're going to come to me, like you're going to be out of business quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one thing that I've noticed in our industry. We have a lot of people who are like, well, this is how I've always done it. Well, then you're definitely going to go out of business.
Yeah.
And you can't sit back and say, this is how I've always done it. And every year, typically around this time, that's when we reassess and we figure out what's selling, what's not, how can we serve our clients better?
Right.
How can we sell them more?
Right. Well, and I really struggle with this time of year being February because it's just like, it's a hard time because it's slow.
It is, right.
And you start like self-doubt starts creeping and stuff.
Always.
And that's what's so good about me about coming to this conference is that like about the time the self-doubt has creeped into a point where it's almost like crazy.
Crippling,
then you come here and you're like, oh, it's okay.
We're good. We're great. Yes. And for us, we're so busy right now. And we're not busy necessarily like making money because we're planning for the year. But even more so, we've already started our 2020 models. So it has been really intense because we do all of our friend sessions. And then after our friend sessions, we do elite sessions for our models. And so it's a busy time for us. A lot of marketing and a lot of trying to get out there and be in front of that next class.
Yeah. So you can book them all. Okay. So here's the next question. I give you $1,000 right now and you have to buy something photo related. Like where would you spend that money?
Photo related. I would say I think it depends on where you are in your career, right? So if you are starting out and you're trying to figure out this whole industry and what you want to do, I would say having some kind of mentor or having some kind of education that is hands-on, in-depth learning.
Sure.
So you don't know what to buy until you get educated on that. So I do think that it's best to invest in yourself and your craft initially.
Sure.
I think that if you are further on in your career, then maybe something photographic related would be the direction that I would go. Last year, we completely changed our lighting system over. And so that was a big investment.
Sure.
This year, we went mirrorless with the EOS R. And I know all that's like controversial, whether it's like Sony or Nikon or whatever. But for me, I've always been a Canon person and I really love what I'm getting out of it.
Yeah.
The eye tracking is phenomenal and amazing. There's always an adjustment. It's totally different. It's an interpretation of what you're seeing through the lens. But I think it depends on where you are in your career as to what you really should be investing in.
Yeah, we're there looking at mirrorless right now and I don't know. We talk about it and then we just don't talk about it.
Right.
So.
Well, if what you have is working, then great.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
well,
for me, I was getting too many things that were soft. You know, I was like, man, why is that soft? And I don't get anything that's soft now. It is so sharp every single time.
That's really interesting.
But you have to change how you shoot because before I would, center focus, recompose, which is probably where some of that softness was coming from.
Yeah.
And then now you just compose in camera, it finds that eye and it is done.
That's really cool. Yeah.
It is cool.
I keep looking into it and I don't know. One of these days I'll just spend too much money and pull the trigger.
Right.
Okay.
When somebody else gives you that, a couple $1,000s to spend, there's your answer, right?
Hey, if you're handing out money, I'm taking it.
No, I'm not. In fact, no.
Okay. So now you get $1,000, but you what would you not spend it on in the photo industry? So like,
scroll through Facebook and you can probably see some of those things as well. I see a lot of people that have not established their own look or their own brand, or they're not getting what they want in camera. And so they think there's an easy fix. And I think a lot of people will go towards the, people's filters or their, for the love of God, actions. Right. And so they're not establishing their own look, their own style. Instead, they're saying, oh, I like that person's photography. Look at how crappy that image was to begin with, but she can fix it with just taking this great action and applying it. And then they get the action and they're like, how come it doesn't work on this image? You know? So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You see people in the industry kind of chasing looks and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
When if they stay true to themselves, that's really the key.
And I think initially it's hard to figure out staying true to yourself because if you haven't figured out what visually you love to create or how you love to create that, I think it's really hard when you're saying, just be yourself. And you're like, I'm trying to figure out myself is. What is that?
Exactly.
So I understand that place too.
Yeah. Because I think there's a lot of searching you have to do, but then you also have to just become self-aware and everything in life. And, your style of photography is just one of those things. That's
an extension
awesome.
of that. Yes.
Okay. So what is the best advice you've ever received?
So many years ago, I have a good friend, Kevin Tobin, who's one of the best humans I know. And I told him I was really nervous. I was teaching a class and I said, I'm just really nervous. And he said, Jessica, go back to what you already know in your own business. Think about how when you treat someone the way that they want to be treated, you want to treat that person the way that you see them themselves. And that in the end, it doesn't really matter what you say to them. It really matters in the end how you've made them feel. And so for us, we try and treat every client that way. And that was great advice for me because it didn't really matter what I was actually saying. It really mattered how I made people feel around me. And we hold that true to our clients as well. And here's the people when I'm teaching, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And that makes sense. And I think I wish like I could wake up every morning and just like some of those fundamentals, like treating people well and all this stuff, like was really my priority.
Ingrained in who you are, right?
And it is because I'm a good person and I have manners and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's so easy by like 15 minutes into your day, you lose track of some of that stuff.
Absolutely.
And if we could just honestly have that stuff so dialed, I think that's why some people are successful because they're just really good at that.
And some of us have to fake it sometimes too. I said that, sometimes you're not having a great day or you're not feeling that great. But for me, knowing that when I'm photographing that senior, that is the only time that they will ever be photographed in this moment of their life. Like the magnitude of that is pretty significant,
sure.
Right?
And they've been looking forward to it for a long time.
Absolutely. I've got some kids that will come in and they'll be like, oh my gosh, ever since fourth grade, I knew I was going to, what? I'm like, are you serious? You've been thinking about it since fourth grade? That's awesome, And so the pressure of that is significant. But I will say that motivates you to be the best that you can be. And so I think that some of that feeds off of the senior. And that's why I love seniors because they're all unique. They're all different.
Yeah. And then they bring a cool energy.
They do.
They bring new clothes with tags still on them and stuff like that. that, like, you know, it's really cool. Like,
I know. I'm like, you've never worn any of these 10 outfits before? No, my mom told me I couldn't until we had our senior portraits. I'm like, dear Lord, you've got like $6,000 worth of clothes right here. What?
How long have they been sitting in your closet?
I know. How many pair of fry boots do you have?
But that's inspiring at the same time.
But it also tells me where someone is financially as well. So I used to feel really bad when I'm like, man, you just spent like $2,500 with me. Now I'm like, there's $2,500 worth of boots sitting right there, you know? And so it gives you perspective as well that your portraits are going to be around a lot longer than those fry boots, you know, that they're going to hate next year because they're out of season.
Or somebody else has the same boots at school and they never wear.
Evil. Yeah.
I know, right? Exactly. So what is one personal habit that you think contributes to your success?
I think that my work ethic is probably the thing.
You seem like you're really motivating, really hardworking.
And I am. And I think that we get motivation from a lot of different areas. You know, I've been a provider for my family and I really like my house and my car and I like to feed my children, you know, these really crazy concepts here. But I think that that is a motivation really. And so I don't mind working really hard. I do want to be the best I can be. And I also know that it can be ripped away from you really quickly. And so if I'm not on my A game, if I'm not the best me that I can be, then I don't want to fade into the, you know, wilderness there, you know?
Yeah, and just become irrelevant in a sense, like in business.
And that's part of why we're here at Sync too, because we want to make sure we're aware of what's going on. We're aware of what products are out there, that we're giving the best to our clients. We're educating ourselves. Most industries require continued education. Right. And a lot of people don't invest in that. And it's important.
As a teacher, you know, every 3-day weekend the kids had, they were out having a good time and you and I were like, in the classroom.
You were sleeping in the back corner is what you were really doing because it was god awful. They brought somebody in that wasn't a teacher, you know, like
or cutting jokes with the gym teachers. Right, those guys were the best.
I know. Putting Snapchat filters on the speaker. Yeah. I mean, I've never done that before. I'm always really a respectful student.
Yeah, right. So recommend an internet resource for our audience. Something where like maybe you go for inspiration or something you find yourself using all the time.
Did you know I have a Facebook group?
Yes, go ahead. I do know about this.
Here's that shameless plug.
No. And the shameless plug is coming soon. So
really? I can
plug,
not do that one then?
No, plug it now and then we'll triple plug it in a minute.
Okay. Well, no, and I don't do that because I am trying to give a plug really, but I do think that. And you said a lot of these Facebook groups or internet groups or whatever it is can be really negative, and especially this time of year. I don't know what's happening. My senior model applications are way down. I think that they're just going to have all their friends take their images and it's yucky. It can be really yucky. Or, you know, I just blame all women and moms with a camera. That's why I'm failing because, you know, I've got testosterone in my body or whatever it is. I mean, I don't know. And
I built a whole platform. I'm totally joking. Yeah. I built a whole platform on just bashing mom with camera.
Right.
Guys, I'm totally joking.
Totally joking. Yes.
I did not do that.
No, someone would really hurt you.
I know.
He's like, I'm not dumb. I'm just teasing. No. So I haven't been very active with it, I'll be honest with you, because I'm kind of like jump starting it right now. I do think there's a place where we can go and tell funny stories. I think there's a place I want there to be a place. And that's why I created Shoot It Straight with Jessica Robertson. And it's kind of an extension of the coaching that I do. Yeah. And I just think there's a need for this, a little positive, a little funny.
Yes.
I mean, I make fun of myself all the time. I think that we glorify photographers in the world, you know, we say, oh my gosh, you're a photographer. People say that all the time. And you're like, yeah. And I sweat through 3 shirts today and it's not really that sexy, you know?
Yes.
But I do think there's an opportunity there if you wanted to say your little happy joy or anything that you want to bring that's positive.
No, well, yeah. Or celebrate or just even like ask a concern without like, okay, here's the thing, what kills me about Facebook
without
groups
judgment
is like you voice a concern and then like everybody tells you how to do it.
Oh,
and it's not like you're looking for advice, but you're not like, it's the
condescending nature of their conversation can be really devastating itself.
Yeah. You're like, oh, thanks. I was already down. Now you're just like, I'm even more
thanks
down.
for the, punch in the gut.
So but it'd just be nice to go somewhere for positivity and stuff. And so I'm really glad that you created that group. And
thank you. Well, I'm going to try and do good things with it this year. That's one of my goals.
So to tell everybody the name of it again, it's Shoot It
Straight with Jessica Robertson.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So you guys should go definitely join.
Thank you.
Recommend a book that you would want to share with the group and why?
Sure. So I think one of the scariest parts of being a photographer is the sales aspect.
Sure.
And if you don't have a good hold on that, you won't be able to just survive. So no matter how great of a photographer you are, unfortunately, without sales and without products and without clients coming back to you for those products, you're going to fail.
Sure.
And we've learned a lot over the years in terms of sales, how to do it right, how to do it wrong, the things that I think all of us have. And for me, that book recently is Rachel Martin's book, What to Say. And I think that it's super quick read. I think that if anybody's doing sales for you, it should be like, hey, go and read this right away. And it changes your mindset on that sales process.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's really good. Well, and I think the other thing that's numbers in our industry get thrown around sales too, right? So you're already
and lies and numbers and lies.
Yeah. So you're already self-conscious about it, and then people like inflate their numbers a little bit too. Not everybody,
right?
But so like,
the majority.
But it took me like 10 years to like kind of just build up a thick enough skin to that like I started ignoring those numbers.
Absolutely.
And some people have huge sales, and you don't know the circumstances. Some people have small sales and they're doing just fine.
Absolutely.
But I just think, as long as you're moving forward in your business is awesome. And that's what I've heard great about her book, is it kind of meets you wherever you are and just moves you forward. I heard it's worth reading a couple times even because the first time you read it, you pick up certain things and you pick up other stuff later.
Right.
So
absolutely.
That's
and I was talking to someone last night and she said, well, I only do like 90 seniors. And I was like, what? Only what? And she's like, well, I know like you do more. And I'm like, you do 90 seniors. That's phenomenal. Yeah. And she's like, well, it's just me. And I was like, you do 90 seniors and it's just you? I'm like, why? Yeah. And I'm like, how do you do that? That's a large number, and plus families, plus, you know, and I think that we should be proud of where we are. And if it's not where we want to be, then figuring out how to change that.
Right. But at the same time, you may not want to build a business that does 300 seniors and $4,000 averages.
Right.
It may not.
And it doesn't always mean you're making more money either.
Exactly,
I think that's the thing. You know, someone said to me, well, my average is this much. And I said, well, that's great, but you only do 25 seniors a year. I do 200. And so you have to have that perspective. I have staff, I have overhead. Right. And so someone that is working out of their home, they might not need the same profit margin that I have to have literally to stay, paying my mortgage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it's so interesting. And when PPA comes out with their benchmark, they break out retail versus.
I love it.
And it's like so cool to see.
What a great reference.
Yeah, it's like, there can be more than one model in our industry, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
But sometimes you forget that when you're at a conference and you hear somebody saying this is the way to do it, then you're like, oh, maybe that's the way to do it. Maybe I've been doing it wrong the whole time, and you can't think that.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's lots of different ways to be successful. And I think that's one of the really cool things about being here at Sync. First person gets on the stage and they say, this is how you have to do it. The second person says, no, this is how I do it. The next person says, no, this is how I do it. And you know what? They're all successful figuring out their own formula. And being in different communities, even today, Marisa said, we sell a ton of metals. I can't sell metals. That's not my clients. That's not my brand, right? So it's wonderful that one product is not great for everyone in every part of our country. So figuring out what works for you, I think is really critical.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So the very last point is, first of all, tell everybody where they can connect with you besides your Facebook group, because I know you do sell a few products, like some stuff that you use in your studio and stuff that you share with people that they can buy, like your forms and things like that. So make sure you share that so they can connect with you. And then at the end, just what's some parting guidance you could give the audience?
Sure. And there was one thing that I really wanted to talk to you about as well. There was a question.
She's got questions for me, guys.
I know, right? She's like, way to drive the car here.
This is not how the podcast is supposed to work.
This is not how it goes. I'm in charge. Yeah. He's writing letters to me saying he hates me now. He'll never welcome me back. No. So there was a question when you said, you had something about a product that has changed your business or something like that. I can't remember. But anyway, it was, for me, we noticed that we were not selling our sports images the way that I wanted to. And I referenced this yesterday, which I think is really important. And I love Dan Freeval and I love Ben Shirk, and their composites, they're amazing, but our brand's a lot cleaner. And so for us, we started selling 10 by 30s, simple composites. We've got some samples of them on our website. But for those that aren't selling what they want, I think analyzing why they're not selling those things and then figuring out how to actually sell them.
And to describe the 10 by 30s you're talking about, they're like 5 images. They're kind of just they're like keystroked around.
Exactly.
Around
super clean.
Yeah.
They're not as fancy as Dan and Ben's.
Yeah. There's not like smoke and lightning and stuff like that. Right, no. Like it's just a long skinny one with 5 images, and they're all, it's really cool. So
it's clean, and it works for my clients because their homes are a little bit more traditional. And so it really does work with our brand. Yeah. As far as connecting, my website is jessicarobertson.com. And on there's information about education and coaching. And there are areas where you can buy certain things. Part of our success is coming up with a process that really works for us,
Right.
that works for our clients and works for us. And we're very
Well,
clear about
works
that.
for your staff so that
It does.
everybody can work at their own speed, and
Absolutely.
we're not waiting on everybody. Yeah.
Right. And so part of that success has come from the creation of a book we put together. And it's a downloadable PSD. You can change everything, but it goes through our process. It goes through what clients need to do to prepare. And it goes into hair and clothing and makeup and color harmony and not wearing too many patterns and that kind of thing in preparation. Then it shows you all of our collections and all of our prices.
Yeah. Because one of the things that you said this week that was really interesting, actually, David Beckham said this. I think his podcast will come out before yours, and he talked about this, that you're so transparent about your pricing. And that's kind of controversial in a sense, because so many people are like, don't show them pricing until the order.
I cannot imagine being treated that way.
I know. So you're like, I show them everything up front.
Absolutely. Yeah. Answer any questions that they have. I mean, it's a process there. So when they come in and we go over everything, and after I go over the first collection, we literally stand up and I go, hey, you know what? It's probably easier just to touch and feel it. So let's go walk across the room. So I take them away from the pricing, and then they show me what they fall in love with. And if they've fallen in love with something, that may not initially have been the thing that they were going to select based on the price point.
Yes.
And so at that point, they've fallen in love with it and they want that. So then they have time between our consultation, their session, their ordering session, that they can figure out how to make that work. And if that means breaking into payment plans, that's awesome. We love to do that, because then that means our clients are actually getting what they want.
Sure.
But we do go over the pricing in full with each person in detail.
And it's part of this book that you show them. Yeah.
So we print an 11 by 14 from H&H Color Lab, and it's beautiful. It's professional. It's clean. And for me, we don't miss anything. So if I'm just supposed to remember what I'm going to say to my clients, I'll forget something.
Yeah.
But it's a process. Again, like I said, it keeps me straight with every single client. And then we follow that up with some videos as well. So we're trying to hit on all those ways we can educate our clients, whether they're reading it, they're hearing it, and they're also seeing it again. Yes. So there's a constant reminder. So they're really ready for their session.
And so this is, they can just go to your website and then an option to purchase all this or whatever.
Absolutely.
So,
and there's information about our model program too, which I think we do a little differently than a lot of folks in the country.
Cool. And then you're also doing a workshop with David Beckham, right?
I am, yes, in May. So May 17th through the 19th. This is our second one. We had such a great time in Florida last year for our class and had some great feedback. And so by popular demand, we are coming back. Yeah. And this time we're at my studio. There were a lot of people that had said, I really just wish I could see this in your studio. And so, great idea. So we'll do that. And it's nice to have all of our studio lighting. It's nice that they can go into our ordering room. It's nice they can feel and touch all of our products. And it's great because if you live on the Eastern Seaboard, you can ride the train. The train stops right in our town. Oh, cool. You can stay at our inn right there. You can literally walk to the studio, and we'll be all around there with models. And cool. It's all inclusive. We say, ask anything. What's my quote?
The tagline was
ask anything, learn everything.
Yeah, that was. I think that was the tagline.
Ask anything, learn everything. Learn everything. There we go.
I read it. And
I haven't
said
that in a long time. Yeah, but it is really that authenticity that in our business is true as well. So if someone says, I need help with this, so we send out a questionnaire ahead of time. What are their top goals of things that they want to do? So we really do customize the class based upon what people want to learn. Yeah. And so it's not like, well, I'm sorry, we're not covering that. That's not in our class. Yeah. We'll cover anything that they need help with, because we really want them to leave feeling like we've given them so much information, so much hands-on learning, and that they can go back and apply the things that they've learned. So.
Right. That's really awesome. And so, David told us about that, and it sounds like,
it's a really fun class.
It's really cool. Mm-hmm. It makes me kind of want to do some workshops and stuff. I don't do much of that stuff, but
it's so rewarding.
But here's the two things I always hear when I come to Sync. Hey, I wish I could be at your studio to see all this stuff, and I wish I could come to Colorado. And I'm like, yeah, okay, probably I should.
You should probably look into that.
Yeah, and I can just drive them around in like a Jeep all week. Like it'll be just like a 7-day ride with Matt. I'll just get like a church van, and just drive people around and talk to them the whole time. We don't actually do any shooting.
That's funny.
They just go see every mountain peak in Colorado.
And that'd be kind of fun too. You're the tour guide.
Yeah, exactly. So, any parting guidance for the audience?
Wow, that's a heavy one, isn't it?
I know. It's
so I think that. For me, figuring out who you are currently, where you want to be, and having that plan to get there is really critical. And not being disappointed in where you are, but just wanting to make sure you're moving forward in a direction that is ultimately able to achieve that goal. Yeah. Whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And I think as I've been in business longer and longer, you could probably speak to this too. Sometimes it takes you longer than you would think to accomplish some of those goals. Especially the first couple of years, it seems pretty easy to accomplish goals. But now sometimes they take longer. So not only just knowing where you are, moving forward, but just giving yourself the patience to actually get there.
But it's good not to be satisfied. Even for me now, like I'm never satisfied. You look at some of the work of the people here and it's just inspiring and makes me want to be better. And so I think that, again, if you're stagnant, then you're not evolving and changing, and you have to in this industry. You just really do.
That's awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for being here.
And now we're friends. We're buddies.
I know. So now I'll DM you like at 11 o'clock at night while you're trying to put your kids to bed and stuff like that. Anyways, thanks so much for being on here, taking the time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
So everybody, Jessica Robertson, check her out online and check out her materials. Some of the best out there I've seen.
Thank you.
Yeah. And that's all we got for this week, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to From Nothing to Profit, a photographer's podcast with Matt and Kaya. Be sure to subscribe for more business strategy and ideas to help you create the profitable and successful business you've always wanted. See you on the next episode of From Nothing to Profit.